Question 2. Professor Lau Chi-pang. President. There are views pointing out that traffic congestion in some districts, such as Happy Valley, is caused by the fact that roads in those districts are part of the driving test routes, and learner drivers, due to their lack of experience, often fail to drive their vehicles at an appropriate speed, thereby obstructing other vehicles on the road. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1. Whether it has assessed the impacts of the various road test routes on the traffic in the respective districts over the past 3 years, including whether such routes are suitable for continued use as a road test routes in the light of factors such as population growth and changes in traffic flow, if it has assessed of the assessment results, if not, whether the government has plans to conduct such an assessment. 2. Given that the government established a new driving test center in Yuen Long last year, whether the government has specific plans to set up new test centers in urban areas or relocate some of the existing test centers to alleviate the pressure on the existing test centers, if so, of the current progress, if not, the reasons for that. And 3. As it is learned that the mainland will adopt a closed course test model, whereby learner drivers will complete most test items within closed venues to significantly reduce their time spent on public roads, whether the government has considered introducing the same model, if so, of the specific measures and timetable, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President. The government has all along attached great importance to the provision of driving test services, and we've been striving to maintain an effective driving training and testing system for promotion of road safety. In respect of the driver training policy, the government has adopted a two-pronged approach by encouraging the provision of off-street driver training through the establishment of designated driving schools on the one hand, while maintaining a sufficient supply of private driving instructors for on-street driver training on the other. In the meantime, we've spared no efforts in balancing the needs of learner drivers and other road users. My reply to the question is as follows. Part 1. Currently, there are a total of 17 driving test centers in Hong Kong, including 5 located within designated driving schools. Each test center has more than one route for road tests for the same vehicle class, with similar testing time for each route. These routes have in place the required test items for road tests, such as traffic signals and road junctions, to test the performance of candidates. As traffic conditions of each route vary from time to time, candidates are required to respond to the road conditions accordingly to demonstrate that they possess sufficient driving capabilities and skills while giving due regard to other road users. The above test routes and their vicinities have become the primary area for driver training. To ease the burden on road traffic during peak hours, driver training activities are prohibited on all roads across the territory, except where traffic signs or other legal provisions prohibit such activities during morning and afternoon peak hours. That's from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. respectively, from Mondays to Fridays. The morning peak hour restriction also applies on Saturdays. Meanwhile, the Transport Department has been taking suitable measures to strike a balance between the need for conducting on-street road tests or driver training and the impact on the traffic, including adopting different routes for vehicles undergoing road tests in the light of the actual traffic conditions, as well as liaising with the police to step up enforcement actions on the roads concerned. In addition, the TD continuously monitors the driver training activities in the vicinities of the test centers, conducts inspections on the traffic conditions of the area from time to time, and reviews the road test routes as necessary. On driving learning activities, the TD may, in the light of the latest development and actual road traffic conditions of individual districts, designate suitable road sections as prohibited areas where learner drivers are not allowed to enter and undergo driver training. On road test routes, the TD may adjust them as necessary to disperse the impact of road tests or driver training on the traffic flow of the relevant road sections. from 2023 to 2025, upon reviews, the TD adjusted certain test routes or replaced the original test routes with new ones at 3 test centers, namely Pui Ching Road in Ho Man Tin, Shu Lek Yun Test Center in Sha Tin, and Chong Yip Road Test Center in Yuen Long, so as to disperse the traffic flow of the road sections concerned. Following the adjustments, the traffic flow along the test routes has been generally smooth. The TD will continue to closely monitor the traffic conditions in the vicinities of various test centers. The TD has been striving to identify suitable sites in the territory for setting up additional and more widely distributed test centers to alleviate the pressure on the existing ones. Such sites have to meet various requirements, such as being suitably located for testing, whether the candidates have mastered all necessary driving skills, and having sufficient traffic flow for the observation of the candidates' abilities in handling different road conditions, while the government also has to take into account the views of different stakeholders in the vicinities before they can be considered well-suited for conducting driving tests. It's therefore no easy task to identify replacement sites that are more suitable than the existing test centers, especially in urban areas. Given the scarcity of public road resources, the TD has encouraged the trade to establish designated driving schools that are equipped with their own training venues. We will consider and approve applications from operators who can offer sites that meet the requirements, including the permitted land use and space for accommodating basic driver training and testing facilities for a driving school. Part 3. According to the TD's understanding, the driving test models in Hong Kong and the mainland are similar, both consisting of 3 parts. 1. A written test. 2. A field driving skills test such as parking, U-turning, and 3. A road test. As for the field driving skills test, among the 17 test centers in Hong Kong, 12 of them conduct the test within their premises, which is similar to the closed course test model of the field driving skills test in the mainland. The remaining 5 test centers, due to site constraints, require the driving competence tests to be conducted on public roads. We will continue to closely monitor the traffic and road test conditions in the vicinity of various test centers and adjust the routes or locations of the test items as necessary so as to balance the needs of learner drivers and other road users. In the long run, when identifying sites for test centers, we will also strive to consider locations that allow driving competence tests to be conducted within the premises to reduce the use of public roads. 10 members have asked to speak. Please be brief. Professor Lau Chi-pang, President. The Secretary has reported to us the situation with driving training and driving exams. I'm glad to hear that we are making progresses. Currently, some local universities have got funding from the Department of the Government to develop virtual reality training platform. I want to know if the government will consider making use of these platforms to provide training for learner drivers so that they can, in a closed venue, enrich their driving experience as well as training hours so as to reduce their use of public roads, and this will lower the impact on public roads. Secretary, I thank Professor Lau for the question. We have been adopting a multi-pronged approach. We've been trying to identify more sites for holding driving training activities. If necessary, we hope that we can accommodate technical testing in these venues. We'll also pay attention to the number of exams. Professor Lau suggested that we can hold training activities in universities and making use of their platforms. Moving forward, we'll continue to consider adopting innovative approaches. Dr. David Lam, in Ho Man Tin and Happy Valley, we are seeing an aging population and there is an increasing demand for ambulances. During the daytime, there is traffic congestion because of school buses, and at other times, there is also traffic congestion because of driving learning activities. Are there ways to mitigate the traffic congestion as well as the use of the 2 test centers in these 2 districts? Secretary, I thank the member for the questions. We're moving towards this direction every year. We are seeing an increasing number of applications for private car tests. Take last year as an example. We have arranged 70,000 private car exams. We try to balance the needs of various districts and distribute the exams in various test centers. In Ho Man Tin, given the views provided by local residents, we have introduced an additional route on top of the one on Pui Ching Road. Moving forward, we will continue to communicate with the local districts and pay attention to their needs. Mr. Chang Hock Fung. Thank you, President. We want our learner drivers to be adapted to the complicated road situations through the road tests. An independent training venue may not allow learner drivers to adapt to various situations. I want to know if there are statistics kept by the government showing the passing rates of learner drivers that take the exams in independent venues. And how do the figures compare with those taking on-street driving exam? Secretary, we do not have such a breakdown, and we do not keep such statistics. Indeed, we have been adopting a dual-pronged approach. My colleagues have visited the mainland. In the mainland, they are very stringent with the written tests as well as road tests. They test their candidates on U-turning as well as parking. There are also tests conducted on public roads to see how candidates cope with actual road situations. Regardless of the types of exams or tests, we want to ensure road safety. Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, President. During peak hours, driver training activities are prohibited, and this measure has been in place for years. In some districts, including Happy Valley, there has been traffic congestion during non-peak hours. Will the government consider extending the banning period or introduce extra restricted zones in areas where there is serious traffic congestion? Secretary, I think Mr. Adrian Ho is concerned about the traffic conditions of some districts. Learner drivers or candidates move at a slower speed during exams. And in particular periods, if there are many vehicles, it would cause an impact on the road condition. Moving forward, we hope to proactively identify sites in the urban area. We are in accordance with the established procedures under our public works departments to see if we can introduce additional venues for exams or road tests, for example, in Taiwan. We want to relocate the test center in Aberdeen. As to whether we can distribute some of the exams from Wan Chai to other locations, we will explore these options. Mr. Kenneth Fogg, President, I'm concerned about the traffic condition near Caroline Hill Road and near the Hong Kong Stadium. Near SCA, there are many illegal parking activities. There are a major construction site. The district court will be commissioned in 2027. There is another Phase 8 shopping mall nearby. It will be opened this year. There will be greater foot traffic. And I understand that there is a venue for road tests, so there are many vehicles, especially near the junction at Caroline Hill Road, and a lot of learner drivers have problems with turning left or turning right, and there could be traffic congestion that lasts for 20 to 30 minutes. The 2 construction sites are there. Will the government consider changing the land use of the area and prohibit learner drivers from taking exams or road tests there? Secretary, I thank the member for the question. Overall speaking, the test center there is one of the major training venues and major test venues. There are some site constraints. For example, there has been land development and there have also been illegal parking activities. In the long run, as we review the number of test centers in Hong Kong, the number of exams we offer, as well as the driver training activities in Hong Kong, we will work very closely with the police. We've heard views from district councillors, and we will seriously look at the situation in restricted areas. And at black spots, the police will step up law enforcement actions. We will focus on the construction sites mentioned by the member just now. Next, Mr. Ken Wong. Thank you, President. We think the road test routes in Hong Kong are rather rigid. The Secretary said there are different arrangements during peak hours. However, candidates make use of the same routes during their road tests, and that aggravates the problem of traffic congestion. I want to know if the government will introduce a smart and dynamic test routes system so that examiners can change or adjust the routes where necessary. That way, examiners can see how candidates cope with road conditions at black spots. Secretary, I thank the member for the suggestion. We will review the suggestion carefully. There might be emergency situations, traffic congestion, or accidents on the roads. We disseminate this information to examiners to prevent aggravating the problems. At busier junctions where traffic has been busy, we want to still test the candidates on how they cope with the condition. There are some road sections that are rather sensitive, and there were previous cases where we replace these routes with other routes. Next, Mr. Kitson Young. There are 12 designated driving schools in Hong Kong. 3 of them are in Kowloon City, and some of them are in Ho Man Tin. And 1 out of 4 candidates learn how to drive in Ho Man Tin. I've been talking about this issue for 20 years. It's not an easy task to relocate test centers. That's why I've been exploring this issue for years. I think the suggestion made by Professor Lau Chi-pang could help mitigate the issue. That is, apart from written tests and road tests, would we consider improving the test system? That is, we can have simulation tests. You can pass the written test and then you can move on to the simulation test to reduce traffic congestion. The problem we face now is that learner drivers move at a very slow speed and they obstruct the roads. I think by relocating the test routes from Pui Ching Road to Tin Kwong Road is not a solution because that's still in Ho Man Tin. I think the simulation test idea is a good suggestion. Secretary, would you consider that? As I replied to the question raised by Professor Lau Chi-pang, I already said that we would consider working with universities in Hong Kong. We would also learn from the practices in the mainland and other places to see how we can introduce innovative technologies in our driving tests to ensure that candidates can successfully get a probationary license after passing the exams and that they would be able to cope with any emergency situations on the road after obtaining the license. Next, Ms. Elaine Chick. President, some members mentioned in Wan Chai and Happy Valley, because of road tests, there have been serious impacts on the road conditions, and this has been causing a problem to local residents in Shou Kong Po and other areas. There will be new developments, including shopping malls, and we are worried that the traffic or roads will be overwhelmed. We have made suggestions to relocate some of the test centers, but according to the government, if they are to relocate the test centers in Wan Chai, it would affect the waiting time of candidates. However, we see that the government has reviewed the test centers over the past 3 years, but Wan Chai is not included in the review. So how serious do the impacts have to be, and how grave a problem needs to be caused to local residents that the government will consider adopting other measures? Secretary, anything that would affect the road conditions or land use planning, we attach importance. Just now, the member mentioned there are 2 test centers in Wan Chai, and the test centers have been posing impacts to the local traffic condition. Every year, we see an increasing number of applications for private car exams. We are currently proactively identifying sites so that we can take into consideration land use planning and see whether these sites are suitable to be turned into a test center. We will, moving forward in accordance with the established procedure and mechanism under our Works Department, to identify site, and we can potentially build a complex in Chai Wan, and it could be a 3-story complex to accommodate road tests or exams for private cars and light goods vehicles. At the venue, we hope that we can reprovision the demand from the test center in Aberdeen that has been cancelled. We want to enhance the capacity through the Chai Wan site so as to alleviate the burden in Wan Chai and Sokompo, as well as Happy Valley, so as to reduce the impact.
Question 3, Dr. Chen.